What is up, my friends? How are we? And you are very welcome along to Thursday night's late night agenda. Have we all recovered from last night? I mean, I stood there this morning with my phone in my hand, looking at the statistics from the match and just shaking my head. I still can't quite believe we got out of there with a 1-0 victory, but very grateful for it. Of course, it was down to Alisson Becker's heroics, and we're going to relive some of that tonight with some praise for the big man. We're going to go through, give you the latest as well on Liverpool's pursuit of Alexander Isak, as confirmed now by multiple journalists. And yeah, lots of other bits and pieces, including an interesting little segment from Miguel Delaney's piece in The Independent that I wanted to run past you and see what you're thinking of. A little bit from Harvey Elliott as well about him having that big moment last night, and of course him wanting more first team football, as I'm sure you can understand. But yeah, I mean, I was reading through your comments before we got cracking, and there was one comment that really stood out to me, and it was from Philip McWilliam. How are you, Philip? Said, not sure how I feel about yesterday, delighted with the result or shocked by how we got comprehensively outplayed. I think I'm kind of somewhere along there with you, Philip. Very grateful for the result, but you know, usually you win 1-0 away from home in the first leg and you'd be, full of confidence for the second leg. And I am confident, but you got to say, they were a danger. They were a danger, and we need to be aware of that. We're going to need to be far, far better at Anfield. But there's two ways of looking at this. Yes, we can talk about the sheer amount of opportunities that they had, but they didn't find a breakthrough. And, that's not our fault. That's not your fault. That's down to Alisson Becker and their poor finish. And somebody else actually put up the stats from the Champions League final we played against Real Madrid as well, where, we comprehensively outplayed them. 20-something shots to their 3, and we lost the game 1-0. So I guess it swings and roundabouts. And one thought that popped into my head before we get stuck into tonight's news was the Ibrahim Konate incident. So after Rio Ferdinand had wet himself on TNT Sports and Paul Merson was wetting himself in the Sky Sports studios, it kind of got me thinking. They're all very ballsy moaning about Konate's push, but I don't remember the same uproar when Konate was pushed against Everton. It's weird, isn't it? It's like one push all of a sudden wants immediate red cards, but the other one, we didn't get anything there, so maybe Lady Luck was repaying us for Konate getting pushed. I like Konate's response to it, by the way. He said, I'm a strong fella, and if I really wanted to push him, it would have been a lot worse. So I'm kind of paraphrasing there, but that's kind of where Ebu was going with it. But yeah, that thought about my mind as well. We felt hard done by against Everton. I know I certainly did over the push for Konate. So maybe Lady Luck was just repaying us last night. James Bond said, got to give PSG a lot of credit. Much better than I thought. Well, I expected it to be difficult. But I agree with you. They were probably a little bit better than I was expecting as well. You can see the stark difference, though, in a team that's hungry, young, and full of confidence against, the old Galacticos kind of Neymar, Messi, Mbappe, that kind of era of PSG. They had a lot more about them last night, and I think if I was a PSG fan, I'd be very upbeat about the future, because if they can keep going like that, they will be a genuine threat and could win a Champions League someday. I just hope it's not this season. Right, Zoom, thank you, mate, for being a man with us for 3 months. Appreciate you, sir. Can I bring that one up? Oh, yeah, we can. Nice. We can bring it up. Congratulations, man. I've been with it for 3 months. Appreciate you. A couple of other bits and pieces coming in as well. Dave Smith, how are you, bro? Let me grab that one. Hey, Craig, hope you and your family are good. Oh, we had a fright today. So I got up today and Harvey was kind of stumbling around a bit, and he just wasn't himself, You look at your dog, your dog. And he wasn't very energetic, and so we brought him to the vet. And he's got an ear infection, poor fella. So thankfully, we got him his medicine and all, and he should be on the road to recovery. But yeah, scary day, Dave, realise exactly again how much the little fecker means to me. But thankfully, he's going to be on the road to recovery. But he's in there in the kitchen now, lying down, blanket over him, resting up. But all good, Dave, mate. Thank you for being with us for 30 months as well. Frankie said, it's not league, bro. Okay. Sure. And thank you, Frankie, for being with us as a member for 18 months. PSG were very good, said Red. It was a smash and grab from us. It was, but you also have to credit, I guess, our defensive resilience in the game, as well as Alisson Becker's brilliance in goal. It was good to see Peter Schmeichel giving him his props as well, saying it's one of, if not the best goalkeeper performance he's ever seen. And it's a fair shout. I mean, 9 big saves, I think, in there for Ali last night. CD Saba said Harvey got an ear infection from the noise of the away end after scoring the winner. That was it. You know, he couldn't take it. He couldn't take the travelling cop. Alisson Becker, by the way, has made it into the Champions League Team of the Week. I'm sure you've probably seen it, but in case you haven't, it's Alisson Becker, then it's Timber from Arsenal at right back, De Kuyper from Brugge at left back, centre back pairing of Emre Can and Pavard of Inter, then midfield Pedri, Rodgers and Odegaard of Arsenal, up top Rodrigo, through the centre Harry Kane and left Rafinha. That was the Champions League Team of the Week. Only stat that matters is who won. Absolutely. I agree with you. And it just shows why football is such a mad game. You don't always get what you deserve in a game of football, but we took our chance last night and it was a lovely moment for Harvey Elliott. Delighted for him. And of course delighted for Darwin as well. You know, we wouldn't have got that goal if Darwin hadn't have persevered and squared the ball across. Did you see what VVD said to Luis Campos at half-time? Had him rattled. I didn't see that, but I did see Luis Campos was having a go at the referee. I'd seen that one all right, running down there. I wonder would he get a 2-game ban and a 70 grand fine, or does that only apply to our managers? Even though he's not a manager, but you get my point. Right, before we get into the news, just a quick one from Ramadan. It said, Isak is tremendous and I would love him at Anfield, but I worry about his injury record. I don't think you're on your own, you know, being concerned about the injury record. And I've got to be honest with you, Ramadan, on the Isak thing, I'm battling my own mind back and forth on it. Sometimes I think about the money it's going to cost, and then other times I think, why are you concerned about the money? You want the club to spend the money, but I guess I'm concerned if there's a knock-on effect. Because if Newcastle stick to their valuation of £150 million, that is an awful lot of money for one player. But let's wait and see what happens. So before we get stuck into this tonight and we give you the bit from David Ornstein and a few others around Liverpool's interest in Isak, I want to just read one little segment from Miguel Delaney's match report in the Independent last night. And the reason I want to read it out is because there's a line in here that got me thinking. So hear me out and then we'll talk about it. So again, this is just one paragraph from Miguel's piece. Said you could see why Arne Slot already had designs on changing his entire forward line in the summer. The Premier League's top scorers by a massive 13 goals couldn't match PSG's fire, at least for sparkle and a sense of energy. So again, the line that caught my attention there was, you could see why Arne Slot already had designs on changing his entire forward line in the summer. That got me thinking. Do these journalists know something that we don't know? Are we going to see Isak brought in but Mohamed Salah moved on? You know, I'd love to know your take. Or maybe I'm reading too much into it. You know, I probably am. But that line stood out to me when I'd seen it because I don't remember much talk anywhere else of wholesale changes to the front line being mentioned or the entire attack being changed. It's the first kind of I'd read of it. So, yeah, let me know your thoughts on it or if you think I'm overthinking it. No, Craig, they talk crap. Well, to be fair to Miguel Delaney, he's not a journalist that really covers Liverpool. He just covers football in general. Just an interesting one because a couple of others had asked, do you think Isak might be brought in to kind of replace Salah? And I don't know. But look, let's get to the big story anyway, which is the David Ornstein piece around Isak. So this from The Athletic and David Ornstein. They will obviously have multiple options on their radar, but the only name I have personally heard so far is Alexander Isak. Liverpool aren't alone in liking the Swede. Liverpool will only move for Isak if he is genuinely available. So, confirmation there, David Ornstein saying the only name that he's seen mentioned or has heard of with Liverpool regards to a striker is Isak. Now, that doesn't mean that's going to 100% happen, but Craig Hope of, I think, the Daily Mail said Newcastle are scouring the market for big ticket strikers this summer. Preference and the intention is for Isak to stay, but contingency planning is necessary, and Paul Mitchell and his team know they cannot be caught cold should the situation change. Now, I've seen another interesting piece today that suggests that Newcastle are more likely to sell Bruno Guimaraes to bring in some money than they would be Alexander Isak. But I think this is going to be a conversation that rumbles on for the rest of the season for us as Liverpool fans, and I'm still none the wiser to whether I think it's going to happen or not. So that's going to be our first poll of the night, ladies and gents. I want to know, do you think he will be a Liverpool player in the summer? So, one sec. So, first poll of the night, do you think we sign Isak this summer? Yay or nay? So, while you guys are voting away on that one, I'm going to take you through some words from our goal scorer last night, Mr. Harvey Elliott. He was saying, so there are moments within the season where I'm getting angry. I'm getting frustrated because I want to play, but at the same time, I need to respect the situation. I need to respect the manager's decisions. Some games I'm needed, some games I'm not. That's just how football is. That's why I feel we're in the position that we are in this season so far, because of his, being Arne Slot's, decisions. Wednesday was another one of them where it worked in our favour. Luckily, I was the chosen one. Alright, Jose, calm down. You could see to come in and get the winner. The chosen one, the special one, it's all the same really, isn't it? You know, I'm just trying to make a joke, and it's a very poor joke, I guess, but I'm going to keep waffling my way out of it. So yeah, look, Harvey Elliott knows he's got a task ahead of him, but you can see that he wants to keep battling and keep trying to convince the manager that he's worth some minutes. Brox, Salah or Isak? You mean, that's such a difficult one, isn't it? Because in one breath I'll say Salah because I'm thinking of the here and now, but then you've got an Isak who's what, 25? So I'd want both, if I'm being honest with you, mate. I want both. But if I had to pick one, I'd probably err to the side of longevity. It's such a difficult one because I don't know, as an example, if Jayden Danns is going to turn out to be our Alexander Isak. So I don't know if I buy myself 2 years by extending Mo, will that give enough time for us to see if if Jayden Danns is going to be that guy or not? Oh, honestly, it's such a tough question. I'd probably take Isak. Yeah, if I'm being really honest with you, I'd probably, in that one scenario you've given me, probably say Isak. But you just feel dirty saying that because, you know, what Mo is doing and has done, we won't see again, but, you know, Father Time is undefeated, so, yeah. I think I'm confident enough of that answer then. Craig Adams, thank you, mate, for being a member with us for 21 months. Absolute legend. Said, Isak is brilliant, but not worth 150 million. So, I want to just play out a scenario here, Craig, if I can. So, we all see the headline number of 150 million, but I guess from the club's perspective, maybe, they're going to have to look at the combined package. So, if they were to give Isak, let's say 200 grand a week, and you paid, we're never paying 150 million quid, but let's say you paid 120 million quid. So then the club might look at that and see, what's the cost per season over the 5 years, and then look at that against maybe the cost of Mohamed Salah, and then still having to go get a replacement. So, the money side of it, I'm going to wait to hear from people who are far more qualified than me about the way Liverpool could amortise such a deal or how it would look in the balance sheet. So, but I get where you're coming from. It's a lot of money. And 150 million, you'd want a bulletproof striker at that money. That's a good choice, but I couldn't sell Salah. Well, we wouldn't be selling him, mate, because he's not ours to sell. He'd be departing on a free contract in the scenario we're discussing. And I wonder, is that part of the plan? You know I've gone back to that Miguel Delaney sentence a few times, but it's stuck in my head. You know, there's so much uncertainty around the club at the minute, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean, there's so much uncertainty about the squad. Is probably a fair way to say it at the minute. For instance, how in any world now could you look at Alisson Becker not being the number one next season, showing in big nights like last night again that he's still the best goalkeeper in the world? You couldn't just push him aside for Georgi Mamadashvili if Ali wants to stay around. One thing I'd like to ask, actually, while it's in my head now, is I'd seen, I think it was Miguel Delaney, no, not Miguel Delaney, was it? I think it was David Ornstein, actually, said that Alisson has 1 year to go at the end of this year. I think Alisson has 2 years to go at the end of this year, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe somebody could check that out for me real quick, but I'm almost certain it's 2 years that he has left. So Liverpool really don't have to make that big decision like they were trying to discuss on Sky last night. I mean, Brox, appreciate the donations. You don't have to keep count of them, mate, but appreciate it. Would I take Anthony Gordon? Again, I'd need the context. Would I get rid of Diaz and bring in Anthony Gordon? Yes, I would. But I don't know how realistic that is. I really don't. I see his name still mentioned. I've seen John Aldridge speaking about him or writing about him in his weekly Echo piece, but I don't know. See, the problem we might have here is how much change is too much change in one window as well. Like, there's a lot to be said for continuity. As much as we probably need a refresh in certain areas, left back, a new centre back to complement Virgil, not to replace him. Yeah, I'm unsure. And I don't know what's going on with Trent yet. And, you know, we all assume that Darwin's moving on, and that will be the case. But is Jota going to move on? Is Diaz going to move on? What's going to happen with Salah? It's so tiring talking about these contracts, isn't it? Pasky, I don't think it's 2026, mate. I think you're wrong. I think it's 2027. Kelleher is 2026. I'm almost certain that Alisson's 2027. Mark said Diaz is also 2027. Yeah, I knew about Lucho's one, alright. But to the best of my understanding, Kanade and Kelleher are the ones with 1 year to go at the end of this season. There might be another one I've forgotten about. Nana Kwame said, Isak is not what we need. He's just an average player and moreover very injury prone. With 100 million we can get a better player in Europe. So I'll certainly accept the second part of what you've said there, my friend. But to say he's an average player, I mean, I've watched him play against us, and I can tell you, I certainly wouldn't be thinking of him as anything as average. You're absolutely spot on about the injury record, and that's a concern to most of us, but he's not an average player. He's well above being an average player. Grim Reaper said, Craig, think of how we got Maka. Brighton were asking 70 mil and we got him for 35. I'm sure the negotiation will do their things. Well, the only reason we got Maka for the price we did is because he had a release clause, mate. There's nothing to do with negotiations. Now, you do have to know about the existence of that release clause. But Liverpool got McAllister for, I think, 40 million, if I remember correctly. Or 38 million. Because there was a clause in his deal. It was nothing to do with how it was negotiated. I wish we could give them that credit, but there was a release clause in his contract. Philip, how are you? Philip McWilliams said, I personally think we can upgrade on Diaz and Jota. So, last night, and context is needed, right? It is. But last night, I was very disappointed in Diogo Jota. Like, very disappointed. He looked like he hadn't played in months. He looked like the game passed him by. He looked like he was fatigued very early. And Diaz as well, he was nowhere last night. In fact, that's probably a game where we can say that our entire front line were invisible. And I don't just mean with regards to shots and stuff. I mean just the general play. When they did get possession, we gave it away too cheaply and it was disappointing. But Diogo Jota for me was awful last night. As was Salah, by the way. But you know, Salah has plenty of wiggle room for a bad performance or two. Julian, thank you, bro. Appreciate you. Would I start Darwin against PSG? No, I wouldn't. I would go Gakpo, Diaz, Salah for the second leg. But Darwin would be there if we need to stretch the game or do something. Because what Darwin showed last night was when he's on form and when he's up for it, he stretches defenders. He gives you something. He gives them something to worry about. And he gave us something last night that Diogo couldn't, which was an aerial option, which you can see from the way he set up the goal as well. So yeah, I think I'd probably go with the front three I mentioned. That's of course if Gakpo's fit and available at that point. I don't know who from the Cove was talking about, but you said did Greg Dembele cooked him multiple times. I'm not sure who we're talking about there, but I thought Trent defended brilliantly last night. You know, you're always going to have a tough night when you've got those young pacey forwards or even the likes of Ousmane Dembele there running at you on either side. I thought Trent did really well. You know, I think that's one of my favourite Trent performances in the last few months. I thought he stuck to his task. Didn't really have too much going forward, but I think he did well. Mark said, Kelleher's contract's 26, Allison's is 2027 and Canada's 2026. Thank you, Mark. Ancient One said, pace strength missing up front last night until, and I can't believe I'm saying this, we brought Nunes on. Mate, you're right. You know, that's what I love about our community and our chat. You know, we all know Darwin isn't going to work out long term, but it's nothing wrong with crediting him because you're right. He came on last night and he made a big difference, and the lad deserves his credit for that. Naturalist said, think we need a few more physically strong players. In the last few games, we've not fared well against bigger, faster, stronger teams. Well, I wouldn't say that PSG were much bigger than us, but faster, yes. They did to us what we've done to so many teams. They swarmed all over us, and it was horrible to look at. And I wonder if this is how opposition teams feel when Liverpool are at their best. But they were very, very good, but they didn't find a breakthrough. And we know one thing: keep a clean sheet on Tuesday night, and we're in the quarter-final. And I got to be honest with you, I fancy us doing Villa if they get to the quarters. I'm way more concerned about the second leg against PSG than I would be about two legs against Villa, even though the second leg will be at Villa Park. I just think over the course of two legs we'll have their number. And then, sure, then you're into semi-final land. And it's either going to be one of the Madrid clubs or Arsenal. Phillips and I agree over Trent, Craig, second half especially. Look, I try to be fair on these things. I've criticised players at times, but when they put in the good shifts, they deserve the recognition. The Goose has said, hi Craig, can you say a massive happy birthday to my gorgeous partner Dave Jones? He's 50 today. We watch all your live streams and think you're great. Keep up the good work. 50, that's awesome. Dave, my man, happy birthday to you. And I'm sure everybody in the chat will echo that sentiment as well. Appreciate your support of the channel, but turning 50, man, that's a big deal. So well done. I hope you're having a wonderful day, and thank you again for your support of our community. It means a lot to us. 50, huh? It's a scary thing for me is thinking, oh, I'm not that far away from that myself. Do you know what though? If I hit 50, I'll be the first in 3 generations to get there. How scary is that? Granddad 37, Dad 45, me 43 and getting very nervous. News on the contracts. Mikhail, I don't have anything for you, my man. I wish I did, but I don't. If we play Real Madrid in the quarter, it will be the semi-final, Gary. Semi-final. Villa would be the quarter-final or Bruges, but it's looking like Villa. And then it would be either the Madrid clubs or Arsenal in the semi-final. But you said if we play them anyway, you play Trent. Do you play Trent knowing that he's going to them at the end of the season? Well, we don't know that as of yet, although I still understand your thought process, because even if we don't know what he's doing, I'm not playing him in the semi-final if you played Real Madrid. I know that sounds petty, but again, I'm going to back myself for knowing human nature, and I wouldn't play him. You might consider the Anfield one, but I don't think I'd be playing him over in the Bernabeu. I'd certainly be looking to Conor Bradley for that one if I was Arne Slot, but that's just my thinking anyway. How is it fair the second leg's at Villa? What's the point of winning the group stage? Well, we won. We got the second leg at home in the last 16, and we'd have the second leg at home in the semi-final. So, 2 out of the 3 knockout rounds there, you'd be at home for the second leg, and I'll take that, to be honest with you. Yeah, I'm not too displeased about that. Villa will be a difficult quarter-final, but I'd rather have the semi-final second leg at home than the quarters, because, it's a massive affair, and you're going to be playing a very tough opponent. Thanks so much, Craig. He's well chuffed. Oh, look, my pleasure. If ever anything like that, please do fire it into the chat, and always try my best to get to them. By the way, shout out to George. George sent me a picture earlier on of his Where's the Money John mug that he got himself alongside his Anfield Agenda mug. The first one of them I've actually seen. So well done to George, and thank you for sending me on the picture, young man. JR13, of course you can get a happy birthday, my man, and big love to all the Reds over in Mexico. Appreciate you being with us, my friend. Mikhail said, are you starting to lose hope on the contracts? Yeah, not all hope, Mikhail. Let me explain where my head's at now. Still don't know what's happening with Trent. I haven't got a clue. Mo now I'm starting to think won't get renewed. Again, I've nothing to say that. Like, I've no evidence to suggest that. I don't know something you don't know or anything like that. But I feel Virgil will get done. But I'm up in the air about the other two. I hope they all get done, of course. But again, I'm going to keep saying the same thing. I don't understand how we'd be here, how we still have none of them done. It's very, very, very concerning. How do you guys feel about the contracts? Like, if I said to you guys right now, what's happening? Who's staying? Who's going? Let me know in the comments what you think. And if you're watching this back later on as well, feel free to let us know where your head's at. Okay, couple of quick things. We've no sponsorship around tonight, so I'm not going to be playing you any ads or anything like that. But I want to just remind you of a couple of things. You can check out the AnfieldAgendaShop.com. We've added a couple of more bits and pieces to what's on the screen there. So if there's something that takes your fancy and you remember, good news, you can get 10% off. Check out the membership tab. And also, of course, our live show. I've got to give you a quick update on this, actually, because I get my updates twice a week. And we're 50% done. We're 50% sold in week 1 for the theatre that we're currently in at the venue. Now, we do have scope to maybe go to a bigger one. But I want to say a huge thank you to everyone who's already got their tickets. So if you want to come and see us, you can get your tickets with the link in the description of this stream. It's an all-ages event. And again, we're going to have a very good, fun night at the end of the season at the Hot Water in Liverpool. Really appreciate all of your support, and absolutely shocked that 50% of the theatre we're currently in's capacity is already sold after a week. So thank you. Right, so, Mo Salah 11 says, VVD stays, Mo stays, Trent stays. I'm loving the optimism. Why are you up in the air about Salah? Somebody's got into my head about the Isak stuff. And I'm starting to second guess myself now. I'm wondering, are we going to put all of our eggs, including the wages budget, into a move for Isak? So that's, I've kind of got into my own head a little bit on it. But again, I got to reiterate, I've not heard anything that I haven't said to you guys, or I've no idea. I'm just, it's getting more difficult to stay positive as the weeks go by. All going, said Adam Reynolds. I mean, I don't know what the reaction's going to be, man, if that ever came through, but you can't let Virgil go. Like, whatever about the rest, and look, we all want him to say, but you can't let Virgil go. That's just the height of stupidity. Not from you, by the way. Sorry, I mean, if the club did it. Salah staying 100%, said Miss 14. Starting to worry about the Canade contract. I don't know. I don't think I'm that concerned about Canade, to be honest. It seems as if it should be a fairly straightforward, common sense one, right? He's a good age, loves playing for the club. I know there's interest in him, but Liverpool will be aware of that. But again, like, who do you go and replace him with if you were to move him on? It just seems like we're creating problems for ourselves if we go down that route. Don Pre, welcome back to Anfield Agenda Ultras, my man. Appreciate your support, thank you. Julian Evans as well, thank you, bro. Appreciate you. Too many types of emotions have cycled through, said Paskey. I'd be devastated if Van Dijk and Mo left. The heart of our team could be in tatters. Johnny Rico said, honestly, I'm too focused on winning number 20 to think about the contract. That being said, Virgil is the priority. Yeah, look, I'm all about number 20 myself, mate, but in my warped mind, that's already in the bag. I have recorded the preview for the Southampton game, which is coming out tomorrow. I can't believe I had to do it already, but, you know, tomorrow's Friday, the game's Saturday, so... Actually, it's already out, sorry, what am I saying? It's already out. Do let me know what you think of that team selection if you've watched it. And the Premier League predictions video that we're going to start doing every week now, that's recorded and that's going to be coming out tomorrow as well. So that's a new video we're going to do each and every match week now. So thank you to everyone that suggested it to us. Craig, I wonder how many times you have to talk about Frimpong before the chat stops suggesting him. I would say he doesn't annoy me anywhere near as much as Victor Gyökeres' name. That's the one that I feel like I've made as big a deal as I can, or as big a statement to say you're wasting your time thinking about him at Liverpool. But I don't know. I don't mind, mate. People are entitled to have their opinions on who they'd like to see in at the club. The fact it's March and nobody knows yet is ridiculous, said Jeremy Kay. I'm praying we win the league soon. I'm going into hospital for a major op and my odds aren't great. Well, Christopher, I certainly hope things go well for you, my man. God, that's heavy going, but man, whatever it is, I wish you nothing but the best. Phil said, is Ibu wanting to see how ambitious FSG is? Don't know. If he's waiting for that, he's about to be fucking disappointed, isn't he? If you're talking about FSG and ambition. It just feels like it's snowballing into a bigger headache than it all needs to be, right? So you've 3 contracts that are immediate priorities. Then we don't know what's happening in the goalkeeping department. Now you've got Canade's situation as well. Diaz, we're not sure what's going on. Jota's maybe up in the air. I'm just concerned. Like, again, looking at it from a purely rational perspective, we as Liverpool fans are supposed to believe that the club can't get contracts sorted in 9 months, but in 3 months we're going to get all of them done and, you know, the spine of the squad changed. It just seems like a lot of work to believe in ourselves, but we're going to find out. Somebody complained about too many changes to your starting lineup, but I agree with you, except maybe Salah instead of Chiesa. So, in the video where I said my reasoning was, I want Mo rested for PSG. It's as simple as that. When I did my starting 11 prediction for the game, I'll run through it really quickly for people in the chat who may not have watched the video yet. I went Alisson, Trent, Kwanzaa, Virgil, Costas, Endo, Jones, Elliott, Chiesa, Darwin, and Diaz. And I think I'm justified in doing that. And I'd love to see Arne Slot do that, because PSG on Tuesday night is going to be a tough game. We've seen how fatigued some of the boys looked last night. I don't see what good rinsing them and playing them again on Saturday would do. And quite frankly, the team I've just mentioned, if they can't beat Southampton, then some of them shouldn't be at Liverpool Football Club. So I would say make the changes, keep some of the big players on the bench, but, you know, it is Southampton. They are where they are for a reason, so you would hope that Liverpool can do a job on them, even with a much changed team. Steve T, thank you, mate, for upgrading your membership to Anfield Agenda Ultras. Absolute legend, sir. Thank you. Right, some words from Luis Enrique, the Paris Saint-Germain manager. This is what he had to say about the second leg. He said, second leg at Anfield, we'll go there and show ourselves to be a team that deserves to go through, that knows how to play. We've got nothing to lose. And he's kind of right. They do have nothing to lose, and they will come and have a go. But if we can get an early goal, that would make a huge difference to this second leg. But most importantly, we are going to have to be a lot more physical than we were in the first leg. A lot more combative, a lot more energetic, just a lot more everything in a lot of areas. Because if we play like we did in Paris, you know, we won't get as lucky again. Gravenberch must get a rest, said Ancient One, Yog Satoth. 100%. He looked out on his feet. He has to get a rest. And Endo came in and did very well. So, you know, you should be looking to play Endo against Southampton and rest them up for Tuesday night. Luigi, always lovely to see you in the chat, my friend, and thank you for the kind words. Alex said, our squad looked tired despite having a break, and I hope that they do rotate against Southampton. We've earned it, to say the least. Look, if we beat Southampton, 16 points clear of Arsenal, who play against Manchester United on Sunday. So, psychologically, it's a big gap. And yes, they'd have 2 games in hand after we play Southampton, one of them being the next day against United, but that's a big gap. And again, it gives us breathing room so we can focus on prioritising the latter stages of the Champions League, of course, if and when we get there. But if you look through our fixtures for the next 5 games, they're not terrible. You'd be expecting a lot of points there. Everton as well, midweek coming up. You know, it should be done and dusted over the next few games. Was there any incentive in finishing top of the Champions League stage? Thoughts on winnings the Club World Cup? So I think the headline number for that Club World Cup is confusing a lot of people. So everybody's seen the headline $1 billion prize fund, and that is true. But there's also consolidation payments for clubs that have been in Champions Leagues that aren't playing in the competition. They reckon that clubs that do decent in it are probably looking at $80 to $100 million. But what impact is that going to have on their league campaign next season? Because it's end of June, start of July tournament. The players are going to have had feck all rest, and then they're straight back into the Premier League starting. And you would imagine that over the course of a season is going to have a knock-on effect. So I'm glad we're not in it, in all honesty. I know that sounds counterintuitive with the amount of money involved, but at least for now, I'm glad we're not in it. And was there any incentive for finishing top of the Champions League? Other than, because I think we made about €100 million from all of that. And of course, then we made sure we skipped the playoff round of 16. And we also had the guarantee of the second leg of the round of 16 at home. And then we have the semi-final at home as well, if we were to get there for the second leg. Mukarab said, weirdly enough, we look worse after a week. But quite frankly, if memory serves, you're right. A few people have mentioned that, mate. Whenever we have these warm weather training camps or anything, and I know we didn't have one, we just had a week off between games, but you're right. We seem to look better when we're in a rhythm of playing every 3 or 4 days. Right, let's check in on the poll. So I asked, do you think we sign Alexander Isak this summer? I'm going to leave it open a little bit longer because we've got over 1,000 votes, but it's relatively close. So have your say in it. If you haven't voted, please do. Roger said, play all the starters to get them sharp for PSG. I don't think sharpness is going to be a concern, mate. Like, Gravenberch looks absolutely wrecked, like exhausted. Salah, again, didn't look himself. I just think maybe bring them off the bench for 15-20 at the end if you want to give them a run out and loosen up their legs. But Saturday to Tuesday, although we've no travelling, thankfully, you know, we play both of the games at home. Actually, I should mention, 3 p.m. Saturday means it ain't going to be on TV in the UK. So, You know the score. We'll be here anyway, and we'll be keeping you up to date. We'll be watching it here in Ireland, luckily enough for me. Beat the champions of England, Spain, Germany and France, and 0 goals conceded. Yeah, what a stat that is, and it's spot on as well, as Winky Wonky Donkey said. Beat the champions of England, Spain, Germany and France with 0 goals conceded. It's pretty impressive when you say it like that, isn't it? They all got a week's rest and look poor. That wasn't to do with the week's rest though, mate. It was to do with the fact that it's been a long ass season. And it was a difficult environment as well for them to go into last night. I don't think the solution is to play them more. Like, just my own opinion, but of course, you know, we all have differing opinions. Jonathan, evening Craig, do you think we still need a number 6? It depends. If Stefan Bajcetic is going to be the number 6 backup, I'm fine. But, you know, if Stefan isn't being looked at as somebody who Arne thinks is going to make the grade, then yes, we do need one. But right now, if he turned around at the end of the season and said, Stefan Bajcetic is going to be that extra body in midfield, like I said a few occasions now, I'd be okay with that. But we don't know what the story is yet, do we? What do you think, though, Jonathan? Would you like a number 6 brought in? For instance, Zubamendi. His name's been linked with Arsenal more recently. In fact, some people have said there's a deal agreed there. Another name being linked with us was Baleba, but £115 million is apparently the price tag on him. But beaten by the Dutch champions. Yeah, but context, mate. You know, a much changed Liverpool team was beaten by the Dutch champions. I fair to say, if there was something important on that game, we played the full team, we'd have got the job done. What did you think, by the way, about Rangers' performance tonight? 3-1 victory against Fenerbahce over Mourinho's team. That's a very impressive result. United 1-1 with Real Sociedad as well. Spurs being 1-0 by AZ Alkmaar, although they do have the return leg in London. Very intriguing night in the Europa League as well. But I looked through the Europa League bracket. It's a pretty weak tournament. But you'd have to keep an eye on the top of that, of the United side, because the final's in Bilbao. So you can imagine they will be doing everything to try to, to try and make sure they're in that final. Elks, thank you so much, mate, for upgrading your membership to Anfield Agenda Ultras. Very kind of you. John Jones, how are you, bro? Said, Craig, apart from the players in and out, it's tarnished my enjoyment of winning the league just because of cheapness. So, John, I can't speak for anybody else in the chat, but I'm with you. I've said it all the way through the season. It feels like, yeah, you can still somewhat enjoy it, but you know that there's this ball of anxiety or the elephant in the corner of the room just waiting to remind you that, yeah, but, so I'm with you. I agree. Some people are able to compartmentalize it and block it out, but I'm not. It makes me nervous. Do you think Klopp gets us the same Premier League results this season, or does Slot deserve all the credit? So this is a question that's come up quite a bit, and I think the fairest I can be about it is, I think Slot deserves the credit. Now hear me out before I get people jumping in to say, but it's Klopp's team. It is. But I think the changes that he's made at the right times to the way that we play and the effort that we put in, I think that saved energy, those saved runs, that little bit of more variation of play has spared us some injuries this season. And last season, it wasn't that we weren't good enough. It was that we fell apart with injuries and stuff at the end of the season. And we knew when Arne Slot came in that him and Ruben Peters had this really good relationship at Feyenoord where they were able to keep 90% of the first team fit throughout the season. And that's not a number I pulled out my backside. That's a number that they've been credited with. So I have to say, I'd give the credit to Slot and his backroom staff this season. You know, there's probably something to the fact that, okay, maybe it isn't as strong a Premier League at the top as it was last year, but that's not our fault. So yeah, I'd say give the credit to Arne Slot. Of course, you have to acknowledge the players that Jurgen brought in as well. But, you know, we didn't win the league last year. with the same team, and looks like we're going to do it this year. So I'd say give the credit to Arna. Slot has improved the team, said Michael Rock. Think Klopp, we'd have had more injuries, said Cam. And also there were some games that you could see the pragmatic side of Arne Slot. I mean, I think one of the games that comes to mind recently is, I can't remember who we played, but we got ahead at half time, and in the last 2 or 3 minutes of the first half, Arne just kept shouting at them to keep the ball, keep the ball, keep the ball. And that's a difference. Even in the fact that in transition we look a little bit less vulnerable now, because yes, build up can be slower at times, but we make sure everybody is set for the potential of us giving the ball away. Kyle, how are you, my friend? Said it feels vindicating to win when owners are cheap but want them to keep the team up to standard. Can't complain about money if the front office isn't doing good business with buys and sells. I mean, I don't know what's going on with the front office, as you would call it. Still very confused as to what's going on with the contract situation. And that's, I think, what is the looming headache for us in the summer. Is it true that teams in the Club World Cup can borrow 6 players? I honestly don't know, mate. I don't know. I haven't really paid much attention to it because we aren't in it. What I do know is there's going to be another transfer window at the end of the season, before the Club World Cup. It looks like they're trying to have a shortened transfer window, so clubs that are participating in it, namely the Saudi clubs, can do a bit of business before that tournament. So we're going to have to wait and see what happens there. Saudi has some deal with Liverpool to sell them Nunez for over the price so we can have extra money for Isak. I don't wonder what do Saudi get out of that? Just in that hypothetical scenario. If Darren wants to go to Saudi, I don't think they need to do much more than pay what Liverpool are asking. Adamus said Slot is helping our players reach their potential. I'm really, really, really interested to see how ruthless he's going to be in the summer. I'm very interested in that one. Because if I'm right, in his second year at Feyenoord, he was ruthless in the summer transfer window. I think he made a raft of changes there. Do you think Endo starts against Southampton? I don't know if I think he does, Tom, but I want him to. And in my preview video that went out earlier on, I had Endo in midfield. So, yeah, I hope he does. Mark Bell said, I hope we don't go to the Club World Cup. Well, it will be in, 2029, the next one that we'd have to worry about. So, yeah, that's future Craig's headache, as I like to say to myself. As we get closer, I'm starting to believe what Fowler said, they're just trying to protect Trent. I don't believe they left their captain and Salah this long. I think they've signed already. So, Nathan, they haven't. It's not an opinion. They haven't. They've said it. I wish Robbie Fowler hadn't said that, because so many people are I feel, going to be disappointed. And to be fair to Robbie Fowler, he didn't say it as a statement of fact. He said he has a hunch, but it isn't true. They haven't signed, and I wish they had, but the players themselves have said they haven't. So, I can only take them at their word. Muckarab said, Craig, wasn't there a report that some Liverpool players said that they didn't think they'd be in this position with Klopp this season? I don't know, mate. No idea. Can't remember. I read so many articles, mate. I can't remember all the bits and pieces. Right, I have some more stuff to go through. 1 second. Okay. So here's an interesting one. Sky Sports in Germany have said that Jurgen Klopp has rejected former Manchester United boss Eric Ten Lasso as a manager option for RB Leipzig. Thoughts? Jurgen doesn't like the idea of him. I'm not saying that he called him a bold fraud, but you know. Granit Xhaka, former Arsenal player, has been having a little pop at the refereeing in his game last night against Bayern Munich. And want to have a guess who the referee was? England's finest, numero uno, top man, Kyle Walker's biggest super fan, Mr. Michael Oliver. He said that kind of penalty wouldn't be given from him in the Premier League. Disappointing, I know Michael from England. So there you go. Granit Xhaka not happy with Michael Oliver's officiating either. Seems like he's not just content now with pissing off the Premier League, Oliver. He wants to take that into Europe as well. I'm sure Kyle Walker still loves him though. Brave Ollie. Right, so Paul Joyce has said Liverpool welcome Georgi Mamardashvili in the summer, who expects to be first choice. However, performances like last night's from Alisson Becker make that look impossible. I kind of agree. Do you know, how do you push Alisson aside from Mamardashvili in that form? It would be the height of disrespect, and we know that Arne Slot massively respects Alisson Becker, because there was no doubt in his mind that Ali was coming back to be number one after the injury, when everybody, including myself, were saying, well, what about Kelleher? What about Kelleher? So, yeah, I think this will be an interesting one. Also, a little bit about Ben Doak. So, Ben Doak obviously was on loan at Middlesbrough, has had surgery and returned to Liverpool for his initial rehab. Middlesbrough are understood to have not completely ruled out the possibility of him playing again this season, but time isn't on their side, and they will remain in close contact with Liverpool. So unfortunately for Ben Doak, a little spell on the sidelines. So just what we spoke about earlier on, Liverpool have beaten the reigning champions of England twice, France, Germany and Spain this season without conceding a single goal. 4-0 victory over the champions of Germany, Leverkusen. 2-0 victory over Real Madrid in the Champions League. 2-0 victory over Manchester City home and away in the Premier League. And a 1-0 victory against PSG. Not too shabby, Arna. Not too shabby. Wonder what the odds were for Alisson to save 9 shots yesterday. No idea. I don't think I've ever looked at the odds for goalkeeper saves. I think Conor Bradley is ready to replace Trent. I don't know if he's fully ready, but he's on the right track. I would say that much about him. But still, we don't know what the situation is with Trent. Craig, do we go with 4 midfielders against PSG? Not if Gakpo's fit. If Gakpo's fit, I'd put Gakpo left, Diaz centre, and Salah right. But I could see the argument if you wanted to put Jones in there as well alongside the 3 lads, because we need to find a way to keep a lot more of the ball at home, and our intensity needs to be a lot higher. There was also a marked difference in how we defended last night. If you looked at the game, it was like we were intentionally dropping off, which can be a recipe for disaster if you have the likes of Ousmane Dembele running at you. But it definitely looked like we were defending more passively on occasion last night, making them make decisions rather than, I guess, pressing ahead. I've seen a couple of people talk about it. Haven't watched the game back last night without commentary, by the way, because I'm not sitting through Rio Ferdinand's drivel. And by the way, he must have been really bad. I haven't heard it because I watched the games on silent, but I've been on a lot of platforms over the last 12 hours or so, and the amount of grief that TNT Sport are getting for Rio Ferdinand's commentary and how biased and poor it was, I hope they pay attention, because it's starting to become a little bit irritating now, having to listen to Neville or now Rio Ferdinand or others. And from what people are saying to me, it almost sounded like Ferdinand was overly excited at the possibility of PSG winning, overly critical when Canade was not given the red card, and overly silent after Liverpool had scored. And it's not just Liverpool fans that were saying it, by the way. Lots of people just said, I don't understand why he's on comms. You know? Is it pundit? Okay, fair enough. But on comms? I mean, not for me anyway. Inspire Me Now said, hey Craig, how are you? Just want to say the game changed when Curtis Jones came on. Well, he made a huge difference, yes. And I was calling for him in the first half to be brought on and sacrifice Diogo Jota. Alpha Red said, not just Rio, but the whole comms team. So who was on it last night? Was it Fletcher? That was on with Ferdinand, because I can imagine that was hard work listening to that if you had to. Rio was mortified, said Ancient One. Goomy said, oh Craig, it was awful. How do you see the second leg going? Anfield's pitch has got to be smaller. It is one of the smaller pitches. I think it's just that because Anfield can't be used for international tournaments because I don't think the pitch is big enough. But I don't know what to expect in the second leg, to be honest with you, because I'm still trying to process how much of last night was us being off it and how much of it was Paris Saint-Germain being very, very good, because they were very, very good. But were they very good because we let them be that good, or were they good and there was nothing that we could really do about it? I'm hoping that it isn't. There was nothing we could do about it, because then I'd be very concerned for the second leg. But I feel a lot less upbeat than I should be after a 1-0 away win. But I do know, and you know, and we all know, that a clean sheet and we're in the quarter-final. And that shouldn't be the aim, though. You shouldn't be going out to go, lads, just keep the clean sheet. But you got to have a marked improvement on the performance from over in Paris. Alpha Red said, McCoist is usually good, but very biased last night. Look, I like Ali McCoist. Proper footballing man, but he does have the tendency to just agree with everyone that he's on with at times. Trey said PSG on a 22-game unbeaten run. They were just good. Well, that's over. They'll never know how it was over, and heck, I don't know how it's over, but it is. I love that we're the team to end that, by the way. Eli, how are you, my friend? Said, much will depend on how many trophies we win. We win the Champions League and Darwin's price tag goes up, as does Lucho's. I think we could get 150 million for the two of them, even if we will just win a double. God, do you know what? On Darwin, I can give you a guess at a price, but I've no idea what to expect if Diaz were to be sold. Genuinely haven't got a clue. You know, shoot me some numbers in the chat. What do you think that Lucho would be worth if we were to sell him this summer? Right, we've nearly hit 1,500 votes here in the do you think we sign Alexander Isak this summer? And 55% of everyone that voted said no, and 45% said yes, although 44%, because of course there's 1% missing. Right, Ryan said 65 million for Diaz. Renzo 70 million, Mukrab 80 million, Chop 40, JCF 60, Gethin 60, Charlie 60, Adam 75, Patrick 85, 100 million. Daniel, would you stop it now, fella? Come on, we're not getting 100 million. Jonathan Dobbs said Lucho 80 if Nunes goes 60. Drill Talk TV 60 or 70 million. Harry Strutt 70, 85. Shanga 35. That's just silliness now. Come on, you're not getting. We're getting more than we paid for him, and there's no way he'd be going anywhere for 35 million. I think the average looks around 60, 65 based off the chat. Some higher, a few a bit lower. I think 60, 65 would be my guess at the average. Mount for 60. Yeah, but he has the English tax. You know, Mount has that homegrown aspect. So you always pay a bit of a premium for that. And you pay an extra premium for your United and you're stupid. No way in hell Newcastle getting 150 from Isak. Well, Jeffrey, I very much feel they won't be getting it from us anyway. Look, he's not worth £150 million. If he had no injuries, yes, I'd say I can see the potential for £150 million, but not with the injury concern. For me, 100 million. Need Kubo. He's just not good enough. Like, again, I watched Kubo play tonight against United, and he's not good enough. Like, that United team is shite. And he didn't do much there again. And every time I've watched them, I've been expecting to be a lot more impressed than I have been. We can do a lot better than Kubo, in my opinion. Nathan said, what's your thoughts on Harvey Elliott? Has he just bought himself another season, or do we loan? Well, you definitely don't loan. There's no point in a loan. That doesn't really help anybody here. I know the answer from Harvey Elliott will be, of course, that he wants to stay because he's a Liverpool lad through and through, regards to being a Liverpool fan, I mean. But, you know, if Arna has a genuine conversation with him and says, I don't see you getting much game time next season, I mean, I don't want him to go, but again, though, like, I'm still thinking in my head, like, we're talking about the 3 contracts. One of them might go, 2 of them might go. Kelleher might go, Nunez, Diaz, maybe Jota. I mean, we've got to be careful about how much change we make in one window, but I think I'm going to need to see how much impact or how many minutes Elliott gets between now and the end of the season before I'm really confident in making any type of an assessment there. Because at the start of the season, he was injured, so he was really unlucky that when he probably could have got minutes, he didn't. And then since he's come back, well, look, to say his chances have been limited would probably be an understatement. Realistically, Isak's only worth around 70. I mean, I look at it this way, Mark. They paid 66 or 67 for him, and he's improved since he's gone to Newcastle. So I think 70 is on the low side. You won't even get the phone picked up for 70. Do you think we lack control of the midfield? I think we need 2 natural DMs. It depends on the opposition. Natty, like last night, no control of that midfield, nothing. And also, we sometimes bypassed our own midfield last night. We were just going long into the channels, and it was just coming straight back at us. So, away from home in Europe, I'd never be against playing 2 deeper line midfielders. But we don't have those options at the minute, really. Seen some Liao links recently as well to replace Diaz. No. He's such a... He's so inconsistent, Rafa Liao. Like, there's no denying the guy's talent. But he's just not really pushed on. And Milan are all over the shop this season. And his attitude has been in question in Italy. He just doesn't have the work rate to play in a Liverpool team. It's just no way. I take Rafael Leao. Stephen Iron said, I really like Vitinha from PSG. There's a lot to admire about a lot of those young PSG players last night. Even Doué and some of the guys that came off the bench looked impressive. Did you see the chart on Sky Sports talking about the valuation of young players starting their valuation, or stating, their valuation doubled? Doak was 19 on the list, valued around 30 million. Yeah, there's definitely a premium on young talent these days because there's been a shift from a lot of the bigger clubs towards trying to bring in the best young talent and thinking that in the long run they'll save money. But I guess the market is catching up with that, and now the value isn't really there as much. So you're paying for proven talent, you're paying for homegrown talent, you're paying for potential. You're just paying, really, aren't you? Would you take Cunha from Wolves for 62.5 million on his release clause? From the playing perspective, yes, but with his attitude, I don't know. So when I say I don't know what his attitude is, I don't know what he's like behind the scenes. I don't. He's had a couple of moments this season where he's lost the head. So if Arna was happy about his temperament as a player, I wouldn't have any problem with the talent that he has at 62.5 million. But you can't just ignore the other side of it because he could be out now for a really important part of a really important segment of the season for Wolves. Dennis said, I could see Liverpool but Isak for 120, 140 and Newcastle by Gomez or Kwanzaa. Kwanzaa won't be going anywhere. No chance Liverpool are going to sell him. We've already got our own headaches at centre-back. Gomez, I think Dennis, yes, there's every chance maybe Gomez moves on this summer if he just wants playing time. And who could blame him in all honesty? We love Joe Gomez. What a servant he's been to the club. A model professional, but he's not getting much of a look in, is he? I know he's injured at the minute, sorry, but in general, he's not really looking like he's going to nail down a starting place. Am I related to Arne Slot? No, I'm just a stunt double. When they need a fat Arne Slot, they roll me out. Literally. Dave, how are you, my friend? Said, a bit of Suarez temperament about Cunha. There is, but if you can harness that, that's a good thing. So, some of the great players play on the edge. Rooney played on the edge. Gerrard at times played on the edge. Suarez, as you know, absolutely played on the edge. So, yeah, it's about if you can harness that and keep him on the right side of the line, there's a lot to admire about players like that as well. For 150 million, I want Rafinha and Cunha. Rafinha is way too old to be looking at. Way too old. And I think Rafinha is in a league that suits him. He did well with Leeds. There's no denying that. But it wouldn't be a player I'd be thinking of for Liverpool to buy. Núñez and Gomez for 40 million Isak. Newcastle aren't going to want to go near Darwin Núñez. If you're a Newcastle, they have to be looking back at Hugo Ekitike if they're going to sell Isak. I mean, it doesn't take a genius to make that link because they've been linked with him in the past. But, as I mentioned earlier on, was it Craig Hope? Newcastle are scouring the market for big ticket strikers this summer. Preferences and the intention is for Isak to stay, but contingency plans are necessary, and Paul Mitchell and his team know they cannot be caught cold should the situation change. Post, you're awesome. Thank you. Appreciate you. I'm even going to let go of the fact that you used the wrong "you're" there. But thank you. Appreciate you. Nathan as well. I don't know. The love in the chat, man, is lovely. Thank you. But, I don't deserve it. So let's just stick to talking about football. I appreciate all of your support, though. Look, if you do want to support me and give me a little bit of a help out, just drop a like on the stream. That would be brilliant. And, of course, if you haven't subscribed, we'd love you to do that as well. Eli Wood said Newcastle season is imploding with some of their injuries and Gordon's head loss. Yep. Schär out, Lewis Hall out, Isak obviously always a niggling doubt, and Anthony Gordon suspended. So you're right. It's a tough time for them, to be honest with you. But I I took account of that when I did my Premier League predictions, which is coming out tomorrow at I think midday. They play the last game. They play on Monday night against West Ham away, and yeah, I think that they're gonna come unstuck in that one as well. Nick, how are you, bro? Appreciate you. Said Craig, we are only a few years away from premium young footballers who have grown up seeing Liverpool be elite break into senior football. Think we will see an influx in wonder kids at Anfield in the near future. I mean, I hope so. Just look at some of the talent that we already have at the club. So Kumas, Dans, Doak, Trey Neone, Rio, Nalo, a good centre back. Connor Bradley coming through as well, still relatively young. Trent Cone-Doherty. There is a lot of talent throughout these ranks, and how many of them progress through and make it all the way, I don't know, but it's going to be an interesting one. I'd be very surprised if Trey Neone doesn't become a top player. Rio, of course, looks like he's destined for it. So yeah, I think it's a good shout, and clubs have been trying to hoover up the best young talent. Somebody asked me this earlier on. Don't know. I don't know, but it could come down to the injuries again. So I think I'm going to say no. We probably wouldn't, because I think Klopp would have done what he'd done most seasons, which is run the shit out of the lads, and then sometimes the injuries come on at the latter part, and that's why we perhaps didn't win it the season before. But it's difficult to know, isn't it? Like, who knows? Craig, it's Trey Morris. Oh, I know. It's a class name, that, isn't it? Trey Morris, Neone. Mike said, don't know, I actually think we've dropped the ball on securing a lot of young talent. Many other teams have done a far better job than us. I mean, I guess it depends on at what stage of that young talent we're talking about. So, yeah, there's been a lot by Chelsea. They've hoovered up a lot of young talent. Then you've got the likes of Newcastle bringing in Hall and some others. It's a difficult one to gauge. You know, there's lots of academies out there producing lots of good talent, but how many of them get the chance is another thing, and we'll see. But I do get where you're coming from, Mike. I do, because you're certainly looking around now and thinking, right, well, there is a lot of talent at other clubs in a young bracket, but some of the prices as well have seemed a little bit over the top. But maybe that's what PSR is bringing in now. I guess an inflated youth market for homegrown players. Dennis said, would love to see us buy Dibbling from Southampton to be an understudy to Salah, learn from him and take over when Salah eventually leaves. So in June? Sorry, I couldn't help myself. I don't know what's going on with Salah, mate, but God almighty, I want these contracts sorted out quick. Jasper said, yeah, but we got Chelsea's best young player. Yeah, they were absolutely raging that we got him. But good. Would you sign Gerrard in order to make him Premier League champion? No. Stevie G had his career, and a distinguished one it was. But no sympathy. I don't do, or not sympathy. No, not sympathy. That's not the word I'm looking for. Sentiment. That's the word I'm looking for. Do you think Isak fits our system? Yes. The injury part, I agree with you on, Natty, but does he fit our system? Yes. Because he can do a lot. He can hold the line, he can run in behind. He's a multifaceted attacker. Big, strong, physical lad as well. The injuries, I'll never push back on anybody over, because I totally understand the concerns there, but I think he can absolutely play in our setup. I want to again just come back to that Miguel Delaney piece for those of you maybe who weren't with us when we started the stream. There's one line in this match reaction that he wrote for the Independent that has me concerned, and it's the very first line of this piece that I'm going to read out. You could see why Arne Slot already had designs on changing his entire forward line in the summer. And then he goes on to speak about us being the top scorers, but I've not seen much written about Arne Slot having designs to change the entire forward line in the media. And I said Miguel isn't somebody that covers Liverpool, on a daily basis. He's the head football writer for the Independent and covers football in a more rounded scale. But that line just stood out to me and made me think: are people right what they're saying about maybe Liverpool going to put their eggs in the Isak basket and not renew Salah? And that has got in my head, and I'm a little bit concerned about it. Why do you think Jota fell off this season? I just don't think his body is able for the rigours of Premier League football week after week after week. And when you don't have, I guess, a rhythm of playing, it stop-start, it's going to impact your performance. So let me throw this out there and see what you think. I'd be way more open to selling Jota than I would Diaz. I don't know how people feel about that, but for me, I'd sell Nunez and Jota over Nunez and Diaz. But I'm going to ask that in the chat. Which one of those two would you move on? Second. I'm going to put it as a poll, so bear with me. So, 3 options. Apart from Darwin, which player would you sell? Diaz, Jota, or neither? So, I'll throw that up and we'll have a look back in on that towards the end of the stream. What's this one? Okay, let me just get this open up here. So, Dale Johnson of ESPN, and thank you, Mark, for sending this on to me. An update in the race for the extra Champions League places next season. And it's pretty much wrapped up at this point. But England are top with a score of 22.178. Then comes Spain, 19.892. And then in third place, Italy with 18.937. And the only real team Italy have left in the Champions League is Inter Milan. So you'd be looking like it's going to be England and Spain that get those additional Champions League spots, so 5 spots for the Premier League next season. Do you think we sign a winger if Salah leaves? And who's your favourite as his replacement? God, I could give you a long list of players, but none of them will do the job. I think there's this mad world where there's a potential that someday we could look at something like a front 3 of Gakpo, Isak and Mbeumo. Something like that. So I guess Mbeumo might be my answer. I don't think anybody's going to do Salah numbers, and I don't think we'll go to the likes of Real Madrid to get Rodrigo. I think Nico Williams probably stays in Spain. So yeah, probably Mbeumo. But it may depend on who would be the centre forward. Daniel, watching in Seattle. How are you, my man? Thank you for watching. Do you think sometimes Arne is a little stubborn and takes too long to make changes? Like he can't trust to start Endo because he's a really good DM. I mean, look, I think we think that of most managers, right? I certainly remember thinking the same under Jurgen Klopp's stewardship. I remember at times screaming, make the subs, make the damn subs, you're leaving it too late. And in Paris last night, I was disappointed not to see Arna make a change at half time. I would have sacrificed Jota for Jones at half time. So, yeah, I think most of the time I probably would be screaming for substitutions before we do them at 65, 70. But it depends on the game. Who would you replace Jota with? Dans. Yeah, probably Jaden Dans. I'd probably, give him the season, especially if you're bringing in somebody as high caliber as Isak, and you know that you've got other options there like Gakpo, who at a push could be pushed through the centre. If we were to lose Jota, keep Diaz, then I'd be thinking I'd give it to Jaden Dans. Nick said, feel for whatever player has to fill Mo's boots. I mean, to be fair though, Nick, we said the same about the manager coming in after Jurgen. So, who knows? If we get it right, let's wait and see. There's no right back like Trent, but there is a left back similar to Trent because I think Bradley can be Robbo's replacement as in style, but at right back. Look, I've no doubts about the quality of Conor Bradley at right back. And if you had somebody like Kirkes on the left side, who maybe is the more swashbuckling, attack-minded, you could maybe have Conor Bradley focus more on the defensive side of it. But again, you're going to see a lot of change this summer, and I'm intrigued to see how it all pans out. Cunha Isa Kudus said, Kagfa, FSG need basketball, not football. FSG, I don't even want to say it out loud anymore because I keep getting in trouble over it, but FSG need to start with more precise decision making and stop stalling and stop procrastinating and sort out these bleeding contracts. Would I take Bowen, or is he too old? I think at this point he'd be too old for us to bring in, and he's under a very long-term deal at West Ham, and Danny Dyer would kill him if he left West Ham as well. Jokes. But not jokes. Paddy Red said, Craig, do you find it ironic we'll be winning the league in a season where we have a home top considered one of the worst designed by fans? Mate, that winds me up a lot. Not your comment, but exactly what you've said. That jersey doesn't deserve to win a league title because it's shite. It really is god awful. So yeah, there's a bit of irony in it. All right, mate, I agree with you. It's certainly not a jersey that I would think of deserves to be a Premier League title winning shirt. Do you know what though? Speaking about jerseys, the club have some bleeding cheek. So I'm sure, like me, many of you guys and girls got an email today from the club talking about restocked signed jerseys. So I went on to have a little look to see, who's available. So I was going down through the list, €390, €390, €390, just for a jersey signed. And do you know whose name was there? If you got this email and you clicked on it, you probably know where I'm going with this, but Stefan Bajcetic. They were selling a 2024-25 home shirt signed by Stefan Bajcetic that he hasn't worn in competitive action once because he's not here. Or if he has worn it, maybe he wore it at the very, very start of the season before he went out on a loan. But what? That seemed mental to me. And also, they never have your Van Dijks, your Salahs. So when they're restocking shirts, surely they're going to restock the ones, like Mo Salah that everybody be clamouring for, especially if you're charging €390. Bogrel said, in my opinion, our home shirt is nicer. Well, the home shirt's the one we're talking about. I just think it's so ugly. It looks like a cheap fake shirt. Even the yellow and the way it's on it, the whole lot of it is horrendous. The away shirt and the third shirt, I mean, I'm not mad on the way the collar is on the third shirt, but the black shirt, gorgeous. If I ever get rich, I'd buy one each and sell half them off cheap. My favourite Nike Liverpool jerseys, the 2021 one, said Johnny. Craig, what's your biggest heartbreak memory as a Liverpool fan? Well, I mean, obviously I'm going to say Hillsborough because it's the correct answer, but on the pitch, I think it's got to be the Gerrard slip, you know, because of who it happened to, and because of what I knew was coming after it with regards to everybody jumping all over it from opposition fans, you know. So I'd say that. Istanbul wasn't a great watch as well, but, you know, that was what it was. I'd probably say that slip because that whole game annoyed me because we did need to play for a win. We did need to try and win that game. A draw would have kept us on the right road. So that's right up there. The 7-2, of course, was frustrating. The Steven Gerrard's last game, the Stoke one, really, really pissed me off. I'm going to stick with Steven Gerrard. That slipping one just hurts me because of him. He doesn't deserve to have that on his memory list. Marcus, I have your super chat here, bro. Don't worry, and thank you. What you said? I'm convinced Liverpool's manager search is 90% about football and 10% about cracking jokes in a press conference. No sense of humour. Sorry, lad, you're out. Love Arna and his humour. I love his humour as well. Yeah, I do. I agree with you on that one, Marcus. I think he's brilliant. He's got a very dry sense of humour. I like it. Craig, are you now more optimistic about Trent? No, not really. I'm not more pessimistic either. I'm just uncertain. Yeah, I'm uncertain. So, folks, if I can ask you, hit that like button for me. We've about 15 minutes left to go tonight. So if you can, help us out by hitting that like button. Be much appreciated. I'll take real pinstripes. Yes, I agree. But this season's one, it looks like, even the real one looks like a fake copy you'd buy in a market stall somewhere. That 90 or that 89 Thomas goal was gut-wrenching. It's the first time I heard about Liverpool. That was the game that made me support Liverpool, Johnny. That exact game you're talking about, the 2-0 victory for Arsenal that won them the first division title at Anfield. That was the game that I became a Liverpool fan after. Dave Downey. How are you, Dave? Hope life's treating you well, my man. Said, hey Craig, well done on the 300k. Thank you, sir. Do you think FSG are going to fund Isak in the summer? I say no chance. So Dave, I think if they don't renew Salah, maybe. And I've kind of... Somebody mentioned that to me yesterday, Dave, and I can't get it out of my head. That maybe that's the game here for FSG and Edwards. Don't renew Salah and then hope that by bringing in somebody like Isak, maybe that pacifies us. Now, it could be way off the mark, and it is just a thought process. It definitely isn't the inside information, but yeah, it's the only way I can really see it happening because I can't see us coughing up 150 million quid. And also, I think it's going to mean Newcastle. It's going to need Newcastle to miss Champions League themselves, or I don't think, you know, he'll push for a move away. If they don't renew Salah, they have to go big. Yeah, but I keep moving the goalposts in my own head around the contract situation. So, as an example, 2 weeks ago, I would have said to you, I can cope with Trent going if you keep Salah and Virgil. And now as we're getting a little bit closer along and I'm starting to get a bit more nervy about it, I'm saying to myself, right, I can cope with everything if you just keep Virgil. Just make sure you keep Virgil van Dijk. You know, I want all three to stay, but I don't know if people in your own minds have shifted, but for me, Virgil has to stay no matter what. Like, there can't be even a doubt about that. Virgil has to stay. Liverpool is Red podcast said, congrats on 300k. I'd love to get half as many. Amazing work. Well, it's taken us, what, 7 years now to get here. I didn't think I'd ever get near this, to be honest, mate. I don't feel I deserve over 300,000 subscribers. I don't. I've always been honest about that. I don't understand the appeal, but I'm very grateful for everyone's support. And I wish you all the best on your own journey. And the only bit of advice I'll ever give you is just make sure that you're consistent in your work and when you upload. Oh yeah, I forgot about that one as well. Elmir, I mentioned that one to my wife actually, what you've said there. The €422.50 for a Fabio Carvalho signed boot. Yeah, I actually mentioned that to Sabrina earlier on. And she didn't really understand why I was getting so worked up about it. And I said, well, he's a player that never made it at Liverpool, barely had a look in. And €425 or €22 is a piss take for that, mate. So yeah, I agree with you. And thank you for highlighting it because... You know, on top of that, they're selling signed cartoon, little framed cartoon pictures for like €325 or something. It's disgusting. Right, so the question that we have up at the minute is, apart from Darwin, which one of these players would you sell? Diaz, Jota, or neither? So if you haven't voted, there's still time to vote away on that one. Right, so now, being reported in Germany, and Mark sent this on to me, breaking. Total verbal agreement between Bayern and Kimmich on a new contract. Green light from the entire Bayern board. Final paperwork is in progress. Contract set to be signed this week with the announcement planned soon. So there you go. He won't be coming to the Premier League, to Liverpool, Arsenal, anywhere else. He is going to remain at Bayern Munich. So that will be yet another contract that Bayern have managed to get sorted out while we sit asking ourselves what the hell it is that Michael Hughes, or Richard Hughes, does from week to week. So that's Neuer, Kimmich, Musiala, and I think there was one more as well, if I'm not mistaken, that they've managed to get done, but and probably for higher money than a lot of our deals as well. Salah leaving is unacceptable. One bad performance last night doesn't change his levels. Who said it did? I mean, you're getting your knickers in a twist there about something, mate, but nobody said anything about Salah's season being anything other than absolutely amazing. Alphonso Davies, thank you. Yeah, Alphonso Davies. Yeah, I don't know why you're getting so worked up about there, mate. Nobody's saying Salah hasn't had a brilliant season. Salah's been phenomenal. Everybody will agree with you on that one. Yeah, I mean, sometimes our fans get a bit weird. Like, they get very defensive about stuff. Like, nobody, and then... and he's fasting for the month, so no water, sun up or sundown. I don't know what time sundown was last night in Paris, but I'm sure he probably could have got something in at half time. And look, to be fair, I think there are many other players who are observing Ramadan, and Ramadan Mubarak to anybody who is. But yeah, look, it's something that Muslim athletes will be used to, and you know, it's something that I'm sure will be brought into consideration by the coaches and the sports science teams. And it was no surprise to us last night to see Salah get taken off because he looked shattered. Have you ever met any of the past or current players? None of the current ones, but past ones, yeah. I've met Robbie Fowler, Jamie Carragher, Dietmar Hamann, Luis Garcia, Vladimir Smeetser, Jibril Cisse. Never met John Aldridge, but I'd love to interview him for the channel. Is there any more I've met? Steve McManaman. I think that's probably it. I think. Certainly not many of the current crop of players, no. Craig, do you still lean forward when you fart? Well, I hardly changed it all over from yesterday. You know, the habit of a lifetime. But yeah, if it's not a lean, it's a little leg lift. It's one or the other. Jack said, do you genuinely think that we'll sign Isak and keep up the good work, brother? Alisson last night, by the way. Oh, man. So good. So good, Jack. So good. If I was a betting man, no. I don't think. You know, if I... Gun to my head right now, no, I don't think we sign Isak, would be my guess. It's going to take a significant price reduction. It's going to take Newcastle to knock out Champions League football. So yeah, I think Cunha, Sesko, players like that in and around the 60 to 70 million bracket, probably more likely. How was Cisse? He was lovely. He was lovely. It's a bit of a funny story. So it was one of the former player association shows, and I was doing I helped him out with some ticket sales and stuff. So a half time in the show, and at the show was Cisse, Garcia, Haman, and Vladimir Smicer. So we got to interview them a half time during the show, and we got Dribble Cisse to sign a picture of himself celebrating with his top off. And he happened to be Skyping or FaceTiming his daughter, his young daughter, at the very same time. And it was cool because I got to see him showing his daughter the image of him being signed and saying that was daddy. It was a lovely moment. But they were all really, really nice guys, I have to say. Lovely. I think here it is here. 1 second. Make it smaller for you so you can see. Yep, there you can see Dietmar Hamann, Luis Garcia, Vladimir Smicer, Dribble Cisse, myself and Jono, and we got some stuff signed and gave it away on the channel as well. But yeah, it was lovely. Got to spend 15 minutes with them at the interval, chatting with them, and honestly, really, really lovely guys, all of them. Let me close that one down. Fnordy said, felt like we played Atletico Madrid yesterday. Yeah, it was a tough one, a tough one, but still can't figure out how we won it. He would have broken his fast before the match started last night. Hakimi and Dembele also fast this month and didn't bother them, to be fair. Look, I mean, Salah's entitled to have a game where he's not at his best. You know, he certainly has enough credit in the bank to have a game where he's not at his best. So I've no issues with it. It only came up because somebody mentioned it in the chat, Almir. But yeah, appreciate your input, my man, as always. Fnordy said, much love, Craig. Garcia, personal favourite of mine. Great lad. Lovely fella. Do you know what? I was such a fanboy there, right? So when we got in there, they were having a little bit of a drink and a little bite to eat because it was the intermission of their show. And I made a beeline straight for Didi Hamann. I was a huge Didi Hamann fan. I have a signed Hamann shirt up in the room that he made out to me as well. And I have to say, look, I wouldn't have a bad word to say about any of them. They were all lovely, down-to-earth, sound fellas who were more than happy to sit and have a chat. It was great chatting with them. You know, they always say never meet your idols or whatever, but I couldn't say that anything but positive stuff about them. They're all lovely. Do you think Arne signed Chiesa? If he did, why can't he even trust him for 5 minutes? I mean, I don't think you'll be surprised when I say no. I don't think it was an Arne Slot signing for the very reason you've said, mate. He would probably be getting more game time if he's a player the manager wanted, wouldn't he? Am I scared of PSG next week? I wouldn't say I'm scared of it, but I'm certainly by no means thinking we're through. You know, it's still tough to process whether it was all PSG being really, really good last night, and they were, or whether it was a mixture of us not being as aggressive as we could have been, and a mixture of tactics from Arne perhaps. But I'm concerned about it, which is why I would like us to make changes at the weekend against Southampton. Would you let Salah go if we can sign Saka? No. But, you know, it's also a really unrealistic option. You know, I wonder how much Saka's career is going to be impacted from being overplayed this young. How do we approach the PSG game? Go for goals or sit back and counter? Yeah, I mean, it's a very good question. I think you have to try and use attack as your best form of defence. We can't give them the freedom we did last night. We can't give them the territory we did last night. We have to try and pin them back in and defend from the front, as they say. We're at home. I know it's tempting to say, right, don't concede and you're through, but it's very difficult to go into a game and then switch your mindset up from defending to attacking. So I think we just have to be us. And I'm sure Arne Slot and the coaches and the players will have learned a lot from last night's match. Gakpo, Isak, Saka sounds good. That sounds great, but it's never happening in a million years. Especially when Saka's already on, what, 300 grand a week or something at Arsenal at the age he's at. I'm going to be very interested when Arsenal have to renew his contract, how much they're going to have to pay him. Right, so I'm going to say goodnight, ladies and gents. We're going to end this poll before we do. And just a quick reminder as well that if you want to come and see us for our end of season show in Liverpool, tickets are on sale right now. You can get them with the link in the description. And the poll, we asked you, apart from Darwin, which player would you sell? Diaz, Jota, or neither? And 55% said they would sell Diogo Jota over Luis Diaz. And neither was second place with 22%. So, if you missed tonight's stream, don't worry. I'm going to recap and go through a few more bits and pieces in a video in the next 15 minutes. So keep an eye out for that one. It'll be out before 11 o'clock. And then I will see you guys tomorrow evening. Same time, same place. Much love. Bye-bye.